Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Sarah Fenske. Yesterday, Missouri Governor Mike Parson came to St. Louis for a packed afternoon of meetings. The topic, crime in St. Louis. His solution? More state troopers assigned to the city in a variety of roles, and more funding, $2 million, for victims of violent crime. Joining me in studio to talk about his visit is St. Louis Public Radio reporter Rachel Lippmann. Rachel, welcome to the program.
Always a pleasure to be on, Sarah.
So, Rachel, what was Governor Parson's agenda yesterday?
It was, as you mentioned, a packed day of meetings. He's come through St. Louis a lot to do a series of meetings with local, state, federal leaders, prosecutors, religious figures, etc. And the meeting that he held last Wednesday was a chance for everyone to get in the same room and say, this is what we are able to put on the table and how we can contribute to fighting this issue. The announcement yesterday was things that he is going to do October 1st, things that he has the ability to control and can do immediately. That was deploying the additional troopers to these task forces and to the highways, and this money from the Victims of Crime Act, which is federal money that passes through the state and then through to the city.
And is this money we would have gotten anyway, or this is an additional allotment?
It's unclear whether this money was targeted for something else or this was a pool that the governor has available and is now making available to the city of St. Louis for assistance for victims.
And you mentioned task forces that these highway patrol troopers will be involved with. Tell us a little bit about the plan for that.
So there are three main task forces or kind of mission groups that they're going to be a part of. There's an ATF strike force, which is obviously focusing a lot on the movement of guns in and out of the St. Louis region. There's the U.S. Marshals Task Force, which focuses on arresting violent criminals, those who may have, committed crimes, they know where they are, possibly have escaped from custody, etc. And then two additional troopers plus a cyber analyst will go to Mission Save, which is a partnership that launched back in 2015 with the stated goal of getting violent crime under control. It's investigative, it's pooling all of the resources together, FBI, ATF, etc.
Okay, so we've apparently tried this before in terms of state intervention with St. Louis's crime problems during the Greitens era. How similar is this plan to what Eric Greitens was doing back in the day?
The manpower is similar, but it's going to be targeted in different areas now. The troopers under Greitens' plan were very much just on the highways. It was intended to be, hey, we will patrol the highways, so therefore St. Louis police can devote their resources elsewhere. The troopers here, some of them will be doing the highway patrol, but it's going to be focusing more, they say, on violent crime, that they know where the criminals are, they use the highways, and we're going to be trying to get them on the highways. These specific other individuals, I think there's about 6 or 8 troopers who are dedicated to these specific task forces, is different, and that's just to boost the manpower for these task forces.
So you mentioned they are announcing that they're putting more people on the highways because they know the criminals use these. Is it possible the criminals are going to change their tactics and move onto the surface streets?
I mean, yes, of course, there's always that possibility, but this was a pledge of support for the state, or from the state to the city, to say we're going to put manpower. We can also expect at some later date, once they nail down the specifics, additional announcement of additional assistance or additional resources for technology, which can include license plate reader cameras and ShotSpotter, which is a network of microphones meant to detect shots fired and alert police to go investigate.
Literal microphones.
Literal microphones.
That's something new, to me at least. So the Kansas City Star weighed in on the governor's agenda yesterday with an op-ed. They wrote, Parson's repeated and ongoing efforts to personally address the violence in St. Louis suggest that he is tragically unaware that other parts of the state, especially Kansas City, are facing similar spikes in gun violence that demand urgent action. There have been 110 homicides in Kansas City in 2019. By the end of the year, the city, which also ranks as one of the most dangerous in the country, may set a record for murders. Yet the governor has not been here recently to talk about those crimes or potential solutions for Kansas City. Are the problems that are plaguing St. Louis, is this more of a systemic thing than the governor is acknowledging here?
I think what got the attention in St. Louis was simply the number of young children that got killed. That's when the conversation originally began, was this is tragic. The state needs to get involved in St. Louis. What is happening in Kansas City, equally as tragic. The loss of any life, regardless of the age, is tragic. The governor did mention yesterday that, yes, they have been in conversation and meetings with officials in Kansas City. Whether whether we can expect a similar Kansas City or Springfield plan is unclear, but he's at least aware of the perception out there that the focus is on St. Louis when Kansas City is having equal, if not more severe problems.
There's a Kansas City representative who said, hey, the real problem here is the state's gun laws. You actually have the exact same problem in both St. Louis and Kansas City. Did Governor Parson address this at all?
This is one of the areas where the city's mayors and the governor will remain far apart. Mayor Parson actually brought up yesterday that, yes, she is pushing for and wants individuals carrying guns in the limit of the city of St. Louis to get permits. And the governor will say the same thing every time. He says, I will not prejudge legislation until it is presented to me and on my desk. And he also always emphasizes that he is a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. And whether he's willing to put any political capital forward to advocate for something that Mayor Parson and her predecessors before her have been demanding, which is just let us control the flow of guns into our city, remains to be seen. He has said all along that it is the regular legislative session where this needs to happen. Whether or not the Republicans who control the legislature will allow any of this to go forward, we will see in January.
Rachel Lippmann of St. Louis Public Radio, thank you so much for the update.
Always a pleasure, Sarah.
Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.